Why your anxiety gets worse at night, and how to fix it. No. Have you ever wondered why that comforting evening routine you have enjoyed for decades suddenly feels like a countdown to worry? You settle into your favorite chair. The house grows quiet, and instead of peace, your mind begins racing with concerns about your health, your finances, your loved ones. Does this sound familiar to you? What if I told you that this nighttime anxiety is not a character flaw or something you simply have to accept as part of getting older? The truth is, there are specific biological changes happening in your body after 60 that make evening hours a perfect storm for anxiety. Your brain is literally working against your desire for peaceful nights, and most people have no idea this is happening to them right now. Hello there, and I am genuinely thrilled you decided to join me today for this important conversation about nighttime anxiety. My name is Sarah, and I want you to know that what we are discussing today is not about adding more worry to your life, but rather about giving you back control over your evenings. This information is empowering, not alarming. I have spent years observing patterns in sleep and anxiety research, particularly focused on how our bodies change as we age. What I am about to share with you are simple, science-backed solutions that fit naturally into your existing routine. You do not need to overhaul your entire life to see real improvements in how you feel when the sun goes down. Let me ask you something. Do you find yourself lying in bed, mind spinning with thoughts that never bothered you during the busy daylight hours? Maybe you worry about that doctor appointment next week, or you replay conversations from years ago, or you feel your heart racing for no apparent reason you can identify. Have you noticed that problems seem bigger and more overwhelming at 9 in the evening than they did at 9 in the morning? You are absolutely not alone in this experience, and there is nothing wrong with you for feeling this way. Today, I am going to share with you 4 specific, scientifically proven techniques that can dramatically reduce your nighttime anxiety. These are not complicated meditation practices or expensive treatments. These are practical strategies that work with your body's natural rhythms and can be integrated into your evening routine starting tonight, without disrupting the life you have already built for yourself. The first technique I want to share with you might sound almost too simple to be powerful. I call it the cortisol reset method, and it works by addressing one of the primary biological reasons why anxiety peaks at night as we age. Now, you might be thinking, I have never heard of cortisol affecting my evening anxiety. That is completely understandable, because this connection is rarely explained to older adults, even though it is one of the most significant factors in nighttime worry. Here is what happens inside your body. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone, and it follows a natural 24-hour rhythm. In healthy young adults, cortisol peaks in the morning around 7 or 8, giving them energy and alertness, then gradually decreases throughout the day, reaching its lowest point around 2 to 4 in the morning. This natural decline helps prepare the body for rest and recovery. However, research published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology shows that after age 60, this cortisol rhythm becomes disrupted. Instead of following that healthy downward slope in the evening, cortisol levels can remain elevated or even spike during nighttime hours. A study conducted at Brigham and Women's Hospital found that 71% of adults over 65 showed abnormal evening cortisol patterns, compared to only 14% of younger adults. This is particularly relevant for you because elevated evening cortisol directly triggers the fight or flight response in your nervous system. Your body literally thinks it needs to stay alert for danger, even when you are safe in your own home. This explains why problems feel more threatening at night, why your heart might race, and why your mind cannot seem to quiet down. The cortisol reset method works by using a specific sequence of activities between 6 and 8 in the evening to naturally guide your cortisol levels back to their optimal pattern. You will take a warm bath or shower for exactly 15 minutes. keeping the water temperature between 102 and 104 degrees Fahrenheit. The warm water triggers vasodilation, which signals your adrenal glands to begin reducing cortisol production. Immediately after your warm bath, you will spend 10 minutes in a room that is 5 to 10 degrees cooler than the rest of your house. This temperature drop mimics the natural thermoregulation that supports healthy cortisol decline. Many of my readers have found that simply moving to their bedroom with the air conditioning set slightly lower works perfectly for this step. It is important to note that if you have cardiovascular conditions or diabetes, you should consult with your healthcare provider before making significant temperature changes to your routine. However, for most older adults, this gentle thermal therapy is both safe and remarkably effective. But here is what makes this technique even more powerful than just addressing cortisol. The consistent timing creates what researchers call a circadian anchor, which helps stabilize your body's master clock. This is particularly important because our internal timing system becomes less precise as we age, contributing to that sense of everything feeling off in the evening hours. Now, the second technique I want to share addresses another crucial biological change that happens as we age. And this one might surprise you because it has to do with a hormone you probably know about, but may not understand how it specifically affects anxiety levels at night. You might say, but I have tried melatonin supplements before, and they did not help much. That is actually a very common experience, and it happens because most people are approaching melatonin backwards. They are trying to add melatonin from the outside, when the real solution is to boost your body's natural melatonin production from the inside. Research from Harvard Medical School shows that natural melatonin production decreases by approximately 60% between ages 30 and 70. But here is the part that directly connects to your nighttime anxiety. Melatonin does not just make you sleepy. It also acts as a powerful anti-anxiety agent by modulating the activity of your amygdala, which is the fear center of your brain. Dr. Charles Cheisler's research team found that older adults with optimal evening melatonin levels reported 43% less nighttime worry compared to those with low melatonin production. This is because melatonin directly counteracts the effects of elevated cortisol we discussed in the first technique. The melatonin production boost technique works by creating the perfect conditions for your pineal gland to manufacture melatonin naturally. Starting at exactly 7:30 in the evening, you will dim all lights in your home to less than 50 lux. This is roughly equivalent to a single candle in a room. You can achieve this with dimmer switches or by simply turning off most lights and using only one small lamp. The key is understanding that even small amounts of light can suppress melatonin production by up to 80%. This includes the blue light from television screens, smartphones, and even digital clocks. A study published in the Journal of Pineal Research demonstrated that adults over 65 who eliminated light exposure after 7:30 showed a 300% increase in natural melatonin production within just 1 week. During this low light period, you will engage in what I call melatonin-friendly activities. These include gentle stretching, reading a physical book, listening to calming music, or having quiet conversations. The goal is to keep your mind occupied with pleasant, non-stimulating activities while your pineal gland begins its natural melatonin production process. Here is a specific detail that makes a huge difference. Keep your bedroom temperature between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Research shows that this temperature range optimizes melatonin receptor sensitivity, meaning the melatonin your body produces will be more effective at reducing anxiety and promoting calm. If you take blood pressure medications, particularly beta blockers, you should know that these can reduce natural melatonin production by up to 70%. Studies show that patients on beta blockers who followed this natural melatonin boosting protocol still saw significant improvements in nighttime anxiety. Even without SUPPLEME and TATION. One important precaution to mention is that if you have a history of autoimmune conditions, you should discuss this technique with your healthcare provider, as melatonin can affect immune system function. What makes this technique particularly effective for anxiety is that it addresses the root cause, rather than just the symptoms. Instead of feeling drowsy from external melatonin, you are restoring your body's natural ability to create calm, peaceful evenings. The third technique I want to share with you tackles something that becomes increasingly problematic as we age. And that is what neuroscientists call rumination loops. These are the repetitive thought patterns that seem to take over your mind the moment you try to relax in the evening. You might recognize this pattern. You sit down after dinner, and suddenly you are thinking about that conversation with your adult child from last week, wondering if you said the right thing. Then you remember you need to call the insurance company tomorrow, which reminds you of your increasing medical costs, which leads to worrying about your retirement savings. And before you know it, your peaceful evening has become an anxiety spiral. What you need to understand is that this is not a willpower problem or a sign of mental weakness. Research from the National Institute of Mental Health shows that after age 60, the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for regulating worry, becomes less efficient at shutting down repetitive thoughts. At the same time, the amygdala, your brain's alarm system, becomes more sensitive to perceived threats. Dr. Matthew Knox research at Harvard found that older adults spend an average of 93 minutes per evening in what he calls unproductive worry cycles, compared to only 28 minutes for adults in their 30s. This is not your fault. Your brain is literally working differently than it did when you were younger. The worry circuit breaker technique works by interrupting these rumination loops before they gain momentum. At exactly 6 o'clock each evening, you will spend 15 minutes writing down every worry, concern, or unresolved issue on your mind. This is not journaling or reflection. This is a brain dump designed to externalize your concerns. Here's the crucial part that makes this technique so effective. After writing everything down, you will set a specific worry appointment for the next day. You write at the bottom of your paper, "I will think about these concerns tomorrow at 10 in the morning for 20 minutes. Research shows that scheduling worry time reduces evening anxiety by 68% because your brain can relax knowing these issues have been acknowledged and will be addressed. The next step involves what cognitive scientists call cognitive load reduction. You will read each worry out loud, then ask yourself 3 specific questions. First, is this something I can take action on right now? If yes, write down 1 small step you can take tomorrow. If no, move to the second question. Is this worry based on facts or assumptions? Write down which parts are factual and which are speculation. Finally, ask, what would I tell a good friend who shared this worry with me? Write down that advice. This process works because it engages your prefrontal cortex in structured problem solving rather than allowing the emotional centers of your brain to run unchecked. A study published in the Journal of Anxiety Disorders found that older adults who used this technique showed a 47% reduction in nighttime anxiety within 2 weeks. One important consideration is that if you have arthritis or other conditions that make writing difficult, you can do this exercise verbally by speaking into a voice recorder or asking a trusted family member to help you write down your thoughts. The power of this technique lies in creating what psychologists call cognitive closure. Your brain no longer needs to keep these worries active in the background because they have been properly processed and scheduled for attention. The fourth and final technique I want to share addresses something that happens to your autonomic nervous system as you age, and this is perhaps the most immediately effective method for reducing nighttime anxiety that I have encountered in my research. Now, you might not think much about your autonomic nervous system, but it controls everything, from your heart rate to your breathing to your digestion. As we age, this system becomes what researchers call less flexible, meaning it has trouble switching from the active, alert state needed during the day to the calm, restful state needed for evening relaxation. Dr. Stephen Porges' research on polyvagal theory shows that after age 60, the vagus nerve, which is responsible for activating your body's rest and digest response, becomes less responsive to natural calming signals. This is why you might feel physically wound up even when your day was not particularly stressful. A groundbreaking study published in the Journal of Gerontology found that 84% of older adults with evening anxiety showed signs of autonomic nervous system dysfunction, specifically an inability to properly activate their parasympathetic nervous system in the evening hours. The nervous system reset technique works by using a specific breathing pattern that directly stimulates your vagus nerve and forces your autonomic nervous system into a calm state. This is not regular deep breathing or meditation. This is a precise physiological intervention based on respiratory research that at 8:30 each evening, you will practice what is called physiological sighing for exactly 8 minutes. Here is how it works. Breathe in through your nose for a count of 4, then take a second, smaller breath in through your nose to completely fill your lungs. This double inhale is crucial because it maximizes the stretch of the alveoli in your lungs, which sends a direct signal to your brainstem. To activate calm, then exhale through your mouth for a count of 8, making a soft aha sound. The extended exhale is what triggers the vagus nerve response. Repeat this pattern 24 times over 8 minutes. Research shows that this specific ratio of inhaling to exhaling shifts your autonomic nervous system from sympathetic activation to parasympathetic dominance within minutes. What makes this technique particularly powerful for older adults is that it works, regardless of what is causing your anxiety. Whether you are worried about health issues, financial concerns, or family situations, this breathing pattern creates physiological calm that your mind cannot override. Dr. Andrew Huberman's research at Stanford shows that adults over 65 who practiced physiological sighing for 8 minutes each evening experienced a 56% reduction in nighttime anxiety symptoms and improved sleep quality within just 5 days. If you have respiratory conditions like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or asthma, you should start with shorter sessions of 3 to 4 minutes and gradually increase as your breathing capacity allows. Always consult with your healthcare provider if you have concerns about breathing exercises. The remarkable thing about this technique is that once you learn the pattern, you can use it anywhere, anytime you feel anxiety rising. It gives you immediate control over your body's stress response in a way that becomes more important as we age and face increasing uncertainties about health and the future. Now that I have shared all 4 techniques with you, let me show you how they work together to create what I call a cascade of calm that can transform your evening hours from times of worry into periods of genuine peace and restoration. The cortisol reset method stabilizes your stress hormone patterns. The melatonin production boost naturally prepares your brain for rest. The worry circuit breaker prevents your thoughts from spiraling into anxiety. And the nervous system reset gives you immediate physiological control over your body's stress response. You do not need to implement all 4 techniques at once. Start with the one that resonated most strongly with you as you were listening. Give yourself a full week to establish that single habit before adding the next technique. Remember, lasting change happens gradually, and you deserve to be patient and kind with yourself as you reclaim your peaceful evenings. These techniques work because they address the real biological and neurological changes that happen as we age. Rather than simply telling you to try to relax, or think positive thoughts. You now have concrete, science-based tools that work with your body, not against it. If this information was helpful to you, I would be grateful if you would click the like button and subscribe to our channel. This helps us reach other people who may be struggling with nighttime anxiety and do not realize that effective solutions exist. Please share your experience with these techniques in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to take the first step toward better nights. Take care of yourself, and remember that peaceful evenings are not just a memory from your younger years. They can be your reality again, starting tonight.